Hey folks, so this is the interview with Ali, or the real Ali Cat, as you'll find on Instagram. So what a fascinating guy. This is all very fresh for him. His near-death experience was only 6 months ago, and what I found particularly interesting about Ali is that a lot of people either have no faith and then sort of find faith afterwards, or people really double down on the beliefs that they had, or even if they're the sort of beliefs at the back of their head. Whereas Ali had the most profound 180-degree flip of his entire belief system. His ontological views have fundamentally changed. So he's gone from being a satanic motorcycle club sergeant, living very, very much for himself, and after his experience is now interested in polytheism, and really wanting to understand faith structures and help those around him and bring other people on the same sort of revelatory journey that he's on. So a really interesting guy, and I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what happens in another 12 months, because as he says several times, the pieces are still kind of settling in this one. So hope you enjoy it, and I'll catch you on the next one.
I haven't had many opportunities to kind of tell my story because it is so fairly new.
Mm-hmm.
I In order to, I guess, start, I've got to kind of go back to where I was before. Um,
So how do you want me to
yeah,
refer to you, Ali?
Ali works, and I'll tell you a reason why. As I was raised, my first name is Colton,
Uh huh.
born and bred, but I had such a traumatic upbringing,
Mm-hmm.
full of all the trauma that you can imagine a child getting, right? So the torturing, the cigarette burns, the molestation, everything. And as I grew up, I did not know that that was not normal
Uh
because I
huh.
had no reference point outside of it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, until I was drunk around my buddies in my mid 20s telling stories that I realized that my story is different than everyone else's.
Mm-hmm.
That nobody went through what I went through, and they were mind blowing off of one story I had, and I've got 100 others. I've got 100 for years back.
Yeah.
And it was at that point that I realized, kind of what had taken place in my childhood was not normal, and that this is stuff that I need to process and get through. And so I had that childhood name Colton, you know, throughout my beginning years. And when I started riding with a motorcycle club in California, it was the nickname Alley Cat was given to me. And it was a long story, but uh, it got shortened to Alley very soon, and it stayed Alley. And that was the name that I adopted. That was the name that I grew into. That I was like, this is my name now. Like Colton is the boy that was tortured and beaten. Alley is the big dog. Allie's the guy that's going to handle his shit, and he's never. I'm never going to take anything from anybody again. I'm never gonna, And I became this person. I became this Allie, and that's what my wife knew me as. My wife didn't know my real name for the first 5 years of our relationship. My friends, my family, there's still a ton of people in my life now that still have no idea what my true birth name was. And so since my awakening last year, I've now realized that I am a two-part individual. I have both of these people inside of me. I am both Colton, innocent, young, and unprotected, and Allie, the destroyer. I've learned to mold both of these people into the same coin, and now I kind of go by both. And so during my work day, I go by Colton. During my night shift, I still go by Allie. But I realize now today that they are the exact same person. And my story is that I am a completely different person. I am a 180-degree person than what I was 6 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
180 days ago. A little bit before that, I was a sergeant at arms for a three-piece outlaw motorcycle club. I was a devout Satanist. I'm covered head to toe in satanic tattoos. I've got sixes. I've got crosses, sigils of Saint Lucifer. I've got Mark 5:9. The only, it's when Jesus he cast out the demon. and performed his exorcism in the Bible. I've got a Bible quote across my neck. I've got just a lot of very evil markers on my body that identify with the life that I once lived.
Mm-hmm.
And I was 100% in service to myself. I womanized. I drank. Drugs, anything that I needed or that I want, I took for myself. It is a satanic lifestyle, not in the true belief of Satanism is the act of worship to yourself, right? It's treating yourself as a god, and knowing it's based off of Aleister Crowley's writings, which is do what thou wilt, and it's the same concept now, just modernized. Some people will practice some deep occultism with it, but I think the baseline tradition of Satanism is active service, is active for yourself. You know, do what you want when you want to do it because you want to do it, and it does have a disregard for a lot of other people, and a lack of empathy. And when I had my near death experience, it was so mine's different. It was the closest I've ever came to a high speed motorcycle, like a crash, without actually being in the crash.
Mm-hmm.
And so my NDE will most likely resonate more with more people, because not everyone had to wake up in the back of an ambulance completely eviscerated to see God.
Yeah.
You know, mine was a download of information from a near miss.
Fantastic.
There's
Yeah.
no way I should have missed this vehicle. I was coming home from the gym in tennis shoes and a snapback, riding a Harley at 70 miles an hour through city streets, and the car in front of me slammed on his brakes because he didn't want to make the yellow, and I did. So I sped up. Now I'm going like 75, 80 on city streets that are marked for 45. So I'm already being an idiot,
Mm-hmm.
which is exactly how all my friends have passed. Any of my friends that have passed on motorcycles, and I've got several, it was trying to make the yellow. So
Mm-hmm.
there was a big Jeep Wrangler coming the other direction that saw me, and there's no way he should have saw me, but he did. And as he pulled in front, he was going to turn left on the yellow, and I was going to I was going to make the yellow. He turned right in front of me, and he double footed his brakes, stopped that Jeep, and it slammed to a stop. And there's no way that it could have stopped fast enough, but it did. At the same time, my Harley dipped to the right, and I missed him, you know, from the side of that Jeep. I missed him by millimeters, but it didn't seem possible that I missed him. And I kind of just popped out on the other side of this Jeep.
Mm-hmm.
We got to the parking lot. He was, you know, we were talking. He was mind blown. He was like, dude, I almost just killed you. I'm freaking out. And I go into the store, and the thing is that at this point, my brain is so scrambled. I couldn't remember what I was shopping for. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
remember what I was in the store for. I couldn't, dude, no way. I was just walking around in there blindly, and out for a while before I was like, okay, I just like, the milk, dude, let me get the milk and let me get home, whatever. And I don't even think it was the milk that was on the list. And I had no thoughts that were my own. It was the most robotic NPC movement that I could have had. And I got home and I thought about it, was like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and tell my wife what happened, you know, just because I know that she's gonna ream me for it and tell me I need to wear a helmet, um, which I've been doing for the last, you know, year or so. But yeah, I told her, and again, the whole night I'm just scattered. I didn't have any thoughts. I didn't have anything in my own head, any game plan, but I was still a part of me. So there's still a soul fragment of me, of what made me in that body. Um, but my consciousness switched, and it happened during that NDE. And that night, while hanging up clothes in my closet, I was hit in the chest by this vision. It seemed like it was a deja vu, right? It
Mm-hmm.
was a deja vu. It was the most, I've been here before and I remember this. It was a memory, and it was about a minute and a half long. And it was the initial impact of me hitting the Jeep, of me taking the force of it, seeing the smoke and the debris explode out, you know, kind of hitting the ground a little bit, and then it stopped. And I now have this memory in my head. Like I have this memory, I have this vision, and I can't get it out. It's been the same. It's been so real, as if I watched it on a movie or I saw it through my own eyes. And the vision is not from any other perspective than from my own eyes.
Okay.
And I couldn't get that out, and it really messed me up, and it just started changing my life. in a negative way. I started being really depressed, really sad, really, I don't know what's going on. 2 weeks later, I'm driving through that intersection and it hits me again. I get hit with this rush of like energy, and it takes my breath away, and I get downloaded with this information. It's another vision. This time it's me laying on the ground gasping for air. I can feel the blood gargling. I can't feel anything, but I'm there. And this old lady comes over to me. She's leaning down, she's talking to me, and I'm begging her to tell my wife, tell my newborn baby that I love them. I'm trying to get words out, and I understand the words that I'm trying to get out, but I can tell that I'm not being able to make sense to this lady as she's talking to me, and she's telling me to just calm down. And then I see everything start to go black as my eyes close, and then pure white, right? And as soon
Hmm.
as that happens, that's it. That's the end of the download. That's the end of the vision. That's the end of it. It lasted another 60 seconds, but it was put into me in a millisecond. Within a millisecond, I had
Yeah.
the entirety from the front to the back to the side. I didn't have to go through that vision to then see it. I immediately knew what it was, how it was, who it was within that millisecond. And again, I told my wife, and I was like, I don't know what happened. I have no idea. And I was like, I think I died. Like, I really do think I died. And I don't know. And tried not to think about it. Ended up going into one of the deepest depressions I've ever had in my life. You know,
Hmm.
I was in the Marine Corps. I was a machine gunner in the Marine Corps for a while. I've had a long life, right? A lot of exciting, dangerous stuff. And this was the deepest depression I'd ever been in, and it took a while to realize it. What had happened is I got to a place that was so dark and so deep in my mind that I had to find answers. And the first question I had was, what the fuck happened to me? What happened? What just happened? And so I started researching on out of body experiences and trying to look up answers. And the first question I had was, what am I? Who am I? What just happened to me? And somehow, some way, the universe steered that question divinely into everything else that's happened in the last 6 months. My
Hmm.
awakening from the first time I asked myself that question to today has been 180 days. And in that 180 days, everything in my life has changed. And that question, it led me to meditation, led me to an ice bath. And in that ice bath, through that deep meditation, was another download of information. It was the knowledge of what happened to me on that day.
Hmm.
I believe on that day, that person, me, my avatar, my skin suit, did hit that car. I
Hmm.
hit that car on that day, and I passed away last year in that accident. I did leave my original wife and my original baby behind in that timeline on, if you want to call it Earth 32, whatever universe that was in. When that happened, my consciousness, my higher consciousness, knew that I was not done here with my mission. Maybe it knew that this was the nexus point to get me to the next step of my evolution. Maybe it knew that this was the point that was going to awaken me, but it chose, or I chose prior to coming into this life to do it, pull my consciousness out of that avatar, put it into a different universe, and I'm now in this universe that I'm speaking to you now.
Hmm.
I know now that that's what happened, and that the Mandela effect is extremely prominent for me in this universe, more so than a lot of other people. It's extremely prominent. A lot of changes have happened. For a long time, right after that, the reason why I went through that depression is because I couldn't recognize myself in the mirror. When
Hmm.
I looked myself in the mirror, I couldn't recognize myself. And I knew that I had lost something massive. I did. I lost my wife and my baby and myself because of being an idiot coming back home from the gym at the age of 31. And I know that that's what put me into that depression. And getting out of it was the knowledge of that. Getting out of it was just the download of understanding. And it's like everything now that I've been coming across and that I'm getting through meditations are no longer things that I'm understanding, but simply things that I'm remembering. It's
Hmm.
like I've always known them. I've always known these truths, I've always known these facts, and now I'm simply remembering them. The eternalness of my soul, and that I've mourned the passing of my avatar in a different universe. But Ashley, my wife's soul, and my baby soul, we're still here. And it's just fractalized versions of the infinite possibilities that could be us. And
Hmm.
so I was right to mourn for myself, but I'm also now in an escalated process of ascension. And since that period, I have found God within, internal, within the
Hmm.
body. We are all fractalized pieces of an infinite consciousness. And that discovery and remembrance, it immediately destroys the ego. It immediately destroys who you thought you were, this satanic biker, violent. No, you're not. You're you. You're just you. You're God. You're everything and all things at the same time. And when that happens, everything changed. The way I dress changed, the way I look, the way I act, the way I talk, the way I speak, who I talk to. My frequency completely changed to where now I'm attracting different people, different walks of life, more money in the last 6 months than I've ever seen before,
Hmm.
more abundance, more freedom, more everything. I've recently started going to a church that is a Jesus Christ centered church. But my knowledge of this reality is beyond the church. It's beyond what the vast majority of these people in church would understand,
Hmm.
because I understand who Jesus Christ was. I understand the modifications that were done to him to create this experience that we're in this timeline. I understand the reality of this holographic light matrix that we're in. I have just an extreme knowledge that I feel like I shouldn't have, or that I did not have any time prior to this.
Hmm.
And now the next course of my life is trying to navigate that. I've got a spiritual mentor in Australia that I meet with once a week. It's 2 hours every Saturday, and he had a massive Kundalini awakening 7 years ago through years of breath work and just years of trying to find God. And then eventually, through a meditation, when he broke down one of his child traumas, this wash of energy and love came over him, this presence has been with him for the last 7 years, and it's been guiding him. He's now extremely rich. He's wealthy. He's well off. He's happy,
Hmm.
and he's my mentor now to get me to that next step of awareness where we're
Hmm.
able to unlock that ability within us, the intuition, the clairvoyance, claircognizance, everything that a human has the ability to do, that we've just been blinded and blocked from the entities in this world, the negative entities that would have you push. The same thing about the universe not wanting our phones to work, not wanting the audio to sync. And you'll see that everything in this world is spiritual, whether you think about it or not. It is spiritual. It has a spiritual tie to it. And so if you treat it that way, you'll start to understand why things did not work that way. It is Satan working against you, the negative. Now, Satan is nothing but separation. It's the separation of yourself from others. It's the separation of yourself from God. It's the separation of a lot of stuff. And that's what's happening when any of these things don't work out. It's the pulling away from that. It's these negative forces and negative energies making your phone glitch. They're making, sound come off. They're making things not work out your way. The way to fix that is faith.
Hmm.
It's faith.
That's a
It's
really
having faith.
important. It's a really interesting aspect because I mean I've spoken to, I must have interviewed probably 15 people now, and their experience seemed to amplify their faith, or they didn't have faith before and they found it after. But I find you particularly interesting because you've literally 180'd and you've gone from a kind of satanic outlook and view of the world to an essentially Christian one. So do you mind just sort of unpacking that a little more, that process for you? Because it's incredibly, it's like changing direction on a freeway, isn't it?
Yeah. And funny enough, the process happened very quickly. As you know, 6 months ago I was one person. Now I'm not, and that's within 6 months. But I can tell you that the transition from Satan to God happened almost instantly.
Mm.
It happened almost instantaneously. Now, the transition from God to Jesus Christ or to any other path, that's a much slower path. And I understand religion is created by men.
Mm-hmm.
It is not divine. I am beyond religion. However, I have in the last few weeks been going to church to better understand religion, to better understand who these people are within this church. You know, I've also reached out to Masonic temples. I'm on my way of knowledge, right? I'm going to visit Hindu temples. I'm going to do everything that I can to get a full understanding of it. But it has 100% launched my faith in. Faith is the description of, you know, it's the belief in something of which you have no evidence for.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. And I have no evidence for God, but I can tell you he exists, and I have 100% faith because it exists within all of us. Not
Mm-hmm.
the God of the Bible or the God of the core of the Quran, or the Torah of the Quran. It's the God of all. It's the Native American God, the great Wankan Tonka, the great spirit, right, that inhabits all and everything from this pin to you. He's in the electrons that bind us. He's predominant in oxygen. He's predominant in water. It's the energy source that creates this fractalized world that our consciousness is being beamed into. And that transition happened immediately. It immediately was like, because Satanism is, it's very close to being agnostic or atheist, where, you know, you believe in yourself as a god because you don't believe in any other god outside of you.
Mm-hmm.
And then the moment you realize I am a god because I am everything outside of me, that is when that faith launches. Because if you can take your consciousness and realize that it is separate from the physical body, that's all you need to do to validate the majority of religion. That's
Mm-hmm.
all you need to do. If you take consciousness and you separate it from the physical body and you say that these are now two separate things, okay, well, there's your Valhalla, there's your heaven, there's your hell, there's your possibilities, there's all of these other possibilities that could now ring true because you've separated consciousness. And so when that remembrance came in that consciousness is separate from this physical avatar body, you know, this, who am I have an arm, I have a leg, but who am I?
Mm-hmm.
What am I? The I that I am is the consciousness behind the mirror, behind the eyes, behind the brain. The brain is nothing more than a decelerator to slow down the energy so that you can perceive it in this dimension, in this kind of programming that we're in, this matrix reality that we're in, that is designed to separate people, designed to have people experience things. We have to have the withoutness. Without the withoutness, we would never know the withness, right? We would never know the abundance of everything if we didn't have the lack of everything. We could never know good if we've never experienced evil and bad. And this is a training ground for evil and bad. This
Mm-hmm.
isn't a training ground for good. This isn't, you don't come here to relax on your day off. This dimension is meant for souls to come here and learn. And when you pass, you leave with the knowledge of this. You leave with everything. You leave your ego behind, but you move forward with your experience. You move forward with your personality. You move forward with who you still are, while at the same time leaving your ego behind in this dimension. And so you ascend, you graduate. And if you haven't learned the lessons, you'll come back. If you have learned your lessons, it's this, we're in a dream right now. This is a dream. This is, and you, every time you wake up from it, you're popping back into that dream where you're perceiving time as linear.
Mm-hmm.
But your higher consciousness, there is no time. You're just constantly being beamed in or beamed out. There's no such thing as time. There's no age. There's no way to measure that. I know I'm getting a little bit off track,
No, I
but
appreciate it.
there's
I mean, it sounds. I'm fascinated because, like, I'm a big fan of Alan Watts and Taoism, and um, so many aspects of what you've described are in things that they have said. You know, and pan consciousness is sort of we're coming to the end of materialism in from a physics point of view. So it seems like science is kind of catching up with a lot of people like yourself's belief in the greater workings of reality. And the teachings of Thoth from Egypt, he said exactly the
Yeah.
same thing. And the Egyptians believed you had this sort of a present spirit, and then this eternal thing that carried on and was kind of continually updated and stuff. So I find it fascinating. I mean, did all of this come to you from your kind of guided research, or was this sort of an internal download, or just talk me through a little bit
So I
to how you've
started
got to where you are now?
the process was natural for me. It immediately rolled in from training to doing an ice bath, and I hadn't done an ice bath in years probably. And so in this ice bath, through that meditation, was my mind started talking to me, right? And
Hmm.
if you want to know how to talk to your mind, ask it questions and then believe the first thing that comes to your mind, the
Yeah.
first thing that it says back.
Hmm.
That's you, that's your mind, that you didn't choose that thought was chosen for you and given to you. And so I started asking myself these questions, and the first thing I asked was, why did you just, like, where were you? Have you been there the whole time? And my mind said yes. He laughed. He said, I've always been there. I've never not been with you. I said, why did you do this to me? He said, I didn't do anything to you, but I've guided you through all of it. And I said, where were you when XYZ happened? He said, I was standing right there. I was watching you. I'm the reason why you're here. And I said, thank you. And he said, I know. And I said, I love you. He said, I love you too. And it's this knowledge, this communication back and forth between myself and my higher mind that I've been able to have through these meditations that has originally guided me. From there, I very quickly somehow stumbled on through my meditation into CIA documents on remote viewing and
Hmm.
higher consciousness.
Yeah.
That was a
Stargate
trigger
program and
point
all
for
of that.
me.
Yeah.
So the when I started looking into the documents and reviewing them, the Monroe Institute popped up, which a lot of people will know of, but maybe not take it as serious as they should. And that was a good guideway, because I knew that when I go into these meditative states, I have the ability to slow my mind and figure things out. And so the Monroe Institute has the Gateway experience that'll
Hmm.
teach you, in the average everyday citizen, how to astral project, how to remote view, and how to do several other things. If you can kind of master this craft, and the craft is essentially just going within, seeking within. And so I started doing the Monroe Experience, the Gateway Experience tapes. I still, to this day, after 6 months, have not moved past the third tape.
Hmm.
For the first, I think, 60 days, I didn't move past the first tape. I felt that I was not ready for the tape number two, and I believe that there's 10 in the series.
That's right.
Um, and that's because something happened during the tape one. And
Hmm.
what had happened during the very first session of the Gateway Experience tape one was me in my room, completely pitch black. At around 20 minutes of the tape, we're getting real deep into it now. We've already created a box. We've put our woes and our fears into the box. We've turned around. We're starting to work with energy tools. We're creating an energy system for the body. And as I'm doing that, and as I'm going through this process of meditation, it seems to me, in a physical aspect, that somebody is outside of my body holding a flashlight, and they're shining it from the top of my head down to the bottom of my feet, and then back up again, and then down, and then back, and it's going faster and faster. And I'm watching this ball of energy bounce between what seemingly is the top of my head to the base of my toes and back. At the same time, my lips are vibrating so fast. It seems to me that my entire body is vibrating. My heart, I'm talking 5 6 beats a second, it was racing. It was the fastest that I've ever felt my heart race, and I feel that that's the only thing that ever kept me tethered from actually leaving my body at that moment.
Hmm.
It felt close to death in the sense that my body was vibrating so violently in my perception. My heart rate, I tell people it was beating almost 7 beats a second. They're like, there's no way. I'm like, I'm telling you that this thing was racing.
Mm.
And I, in my head, it was like a freight train. getting louder and louder. And then I started focusing on my heart, and I started, not being able to kind of fully pop myself away, seemingly. But what happened in that meditation changed me. It did the next evolution of like, okay, you're starting your journey, and then here's step one, and I just I stepped on the platform in that from that meditation. And when I stepped onto that platform, that's when another all this realization came out. I remember leaving the room after the meditation was done and told my wife what happened, and I was like, I can't explain it. Like, there's no way that, I'm telling you, it was real. Like, my body was vibrating, I was vibrating, my lips, my heart was racing. And I've done that several times since that point, always getting to that point of release and not being able to release. I've reached that point, not every meditation, but it does happen more frequently now. And what I'm realizing is that when I'm going into these meditative states, it's thinning the veil between my higher conscious and myself. And that higher conscious is the fractalized all. It's the all, it's the God, essentially. And so you want to say that you're thinning the veil between yourself and God. Yeah, but it's myself and my subconscious, my
Hmm.
higher mind, the one that's been guiding the strings on this avatar, saying you should do this, you should do this, and making sure that I'm meeting my marks on my soul contract, making sure that everything I've predestined to do here is going to be done. We have this free will, but free will, I believe, is an illusion given to us in this dimension, because we've already chosen this divine path prior to coming in. The plan has already been laid out and set, and what you will believe is free will was pre-planned. It was already destined that you were going to turn that down, and that you were going to roll this direction, you were going to drive left, and you were going to hit that car. It was all pre-planned, predestined. But it gives us this illusion of free will. um I don't know. Again, I'm kind of getting off here, but
No, I enjoy it, man. It's all good stuff. So, what would you say then? This might sound a little weird. What would you say is your intent right now, if you had to sum that up?
yeah, I actually went from having no purpose to having what I deem is the most important purpose in the world. I went from having no purpose in terms of just raising my family, my wife, and moving on, getting my life together, and figuring it out. My purpose now is I know now that it is to wake people up. My purpose now is to spread the message of the awareness of who you are and what you are. I don't believe that that message involves any type of religion. I believe that I'm on the pathway of this religious studies so that I can possibly understand it. But my pathway and my purpose now is to let people understand the polytheistic viewism of this new age religion that is going to sweep over the world very, very, very soon. We will all very, very, very soon understand that we are infinite fractalized God people of the same source. And the moment you love your neighbor is the moment you stop hating your neighbor. It's
Hmm.
the moment you stop war. It's the moment you stop doing everything. It's the moment you stop being an act of your service for yourself, and you start providing for others because you know that they are you. They are you in a different, universal, fractalized version. But at some point, that'll be you too. We are all the same, and this time is an illusion. So my job here is to wake people up through anything and all things. I maybe dropped little hints. I'm a life insurance agent, so I talk to people on the phone all the time about death, about what they're going to do with their life. And my view is always happy go lucky. I just talked to somebody yesterday who was 78, and he said his wife passed last year. And I said, your wife graduated. She's on. She graduated. And I gave him a quick 60-second, like, this is amazing. You're an immortal consciousness being fractalized portion of God, just waiting to meet that creator. And when I tell people this, it resonates because they remember. They
Hmm.
start, they don't, oh, that's crazy whack shit. It's, it triggers something in them,
Hmm.
whether they want to believe it or not. They go home and they think about it, and it eats them. And then maybe 2 weeks later, somebody else says the same thing, and it starts turning. So my job, God has told me, is not to water these seeds and not to care for these seeds, but to simply plant them.
Hmm.
but to simply let people know what this is. And so for my NDE being more common than most people's, where most people have near misses versus an accident. And I've had people reach out to me since my first podcast on the Sean Kelly show, just of Digital Social Hour, explaining to me that this is exactly what's happening to them,
Hmm.
that they are amidst the deepest depression that they've ever had in their life. And it started from the car crash. It started from, I almost got hit by this car. It started from, I fell down the stairs. I was in the hospital for X months. Like, I was in a coma. And ever since then, I've lost myself and I've lost that. Like, I'm telling you, that's what it is. And so once you understand what happened to you, then it's a gateway to being like, the consciousness is separate.
Hmm.
If the consciousness is separate, that's all I want to hear. That's all I want to tell you, is that this is not reality. This is a construct that your consciousness is producing so you can experience it. So don't think of I am as the body and the skin suit that you're wearing, the one with all the satanic tattoos and crazy shit you decided to decorate on. That's not you.
Hmm.
You are the you behind the eyes, and you're immortal. You can't be touched. Your soul cannot be hurt, damaged, fractalized, broken. It is there. You might be able to experience pain, but the moment you pass and you pop out of your body, your vision will go 360 degrees and you'll have an understanding. I believe that heaven and hell, quotation mark, are created by your own consciousness, but that's because your consciousness is God.
Hmm.
You are a creator. You create what you see, what you need, what you believe. That's why we're able to manifest in this reality. We're able to pull thoughts from the quantum field and put them into a reality perspective in this third dimension, because we are gods. We are fractalized portions of that creator being.
Love it, man. That's fascinating. So, where can people catch up with you? Where's the best place to send them? To your Instagram
Yeah, so
or
right now
anywhere
I
else?
I actually it's so funny. So I've been meaning to go live on my Instagram. I'm at the real underscore alley cat,
I'll
and
put a link up on the
on my
screen as well.
Instagram, perfect. On my Instagram, I share shock content, right? And I'll usually put a really big, deep caption and try to capture people. So I ended up meeting the worst people from the internet, the people that watch this gore and they love it, and they comment, ha ha ha, and biker's fault, and all these other internet stuff. And then in the bio section, the detail section, I'll talk about God. I'll talk about something that'll wake you up. And so it's became a way to meet the worst people of society and give them kind of guidance. But it
Hmm.
originally started just to promote life insurance.
Hmm.
I want to go live and change a little bit and start putting more of myself into the content that I produce. But right now I'm on like my ninth account violation for sharing this crazy content.
Right.
So
I
I'm
see. I see.
I'm yeah, exactly. I'm thinking about maybe just kind of starting my own thing. I just don't know exactly where my pathway is for
Yeah.
getting the message out, because I'm 6 months in.
Mm.
I just started. I know that it's going to happen. I trust in God. I trust in this plan, this divine consciousness to tell me what to do and what and when to do it, which is why I'm here talking to you. It's all a thing that's been molded for me, and I am just simply the observer of it. I'm simply just experiencing these things that my higher consciousness is lining up for me.
Hmm.
It's why my mentor talks is I've got a baptism coming up in 2 weeks, and that's crazy. Was a devout Satanist for 32 years. I'm going to get baptized for the first time in my life, and the reason why I chose to do that is because I understand baptism a lot more than these people at the church. I understand the process of it and what it is, and I understand the reason why my soul is telling me to do it. It's because I'm having a hard time releasing reality from my subconscious,
Yeah.
and I'm having a hard time letting go of a lot of the trauma that I was given as a child, and my consciousness is telling me that I need to hurry up. I need to hurry up, let this go, and awake and ascend. And because I'm having a hard time doing that, it's progressing me into this baptism, so that my physical body will have a physical thing done to it that will allow it to believe that it has been reprogrammed. When it allows itself to believe that it's been reprogrammed, it has been reprogrammed, right? The subconscious will now be able to be like, okay, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
And I have not been able to do that this far. So my belief system tells me that the baptism is nothing more but being washed within the Christ consciousness and then coming out and being part of that consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's being baptized, dunked in, and pulled out. I don't think you need water to do it. But water helps. Water is intelligent. Water has memory, divine water, holy water, living water, whatever you want to call it. The simple physical act of my avatar being dunked and pulled in and out of that water, and the knowledge and thought process that that is doing something for me, becomes my like permission slip to ascend. It
Mm-hmm.
becomes what I'm allowing myself to use to go to that next level. And I know that that's what's coming. And so I'm excited for it. I know that my body is saying, my mind's saying, you're not going to be able to ascend because you can't release these negative things. You need a reprogramming. This baptism has always been known as a reprogramming. It's
Mm-hmm.
been known to wipe negatives from you and reprogram you in this matrix with a collective consciousness. That's what it is, and that's what my body is going to allow myself to believe and to take forth into that baptism. So I'm very fresh into my journey and all of this, and as it plays out, my pathway is going to be, it's going to be linked up one step in front of the other, and
Yeah.
it's not going to be hard. If it's divine, it's not hard, it's not difficult. You didn't claw your way to get there.
Mm-hmm.
If your intuition led you there, it was easy and you enjoyed it and you loved it, and here it is, and step by step by step, and you look back and you say that everything was divine. It was all meant to be. I was meant to lose that, come across, I've helped more people in the last couple months ever in my life. I
Mm-hmm.
come across people that need help. Just yesterday, riding home on the highway, was a lady broken down with her car completely down, and she's like looking at it and she's freaking out, and her car tire is completely flat. I had her tire changed, back up on the road in 20 minutes flat, and had her on her way during rush hour 80-mile-an-hour traffic. And she said right before I got there, she started praying. She said, I prayed for my angels to help me. She said, my father has always told me I needed to learn how to change a tire, and I still didn't learn. And then I just started praying, please someone help me, where's my guardian angels at? And she said the moment she said that, I pulled up on my motorcycle. And I loved the fact that I was able to help her. That's all it
Mm-hmm.
was. Like, I was so happy and so lucky that I was the one to find her.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I got halfway done, other people started showing up to help, and I'm like, I got it, man. Like, this is done. And I changed the tire, had her on her way. I had her look up a tire shop so that she can get it swapped for like $20. Get a
Mm-hmm.
patch, like all this stuff. Um, but that happens to me more now than ever before. I
Mm-hmm.
am locating and finding. And the universe is doing that for me,
Mm-hmm.
just like it did for Jesus Christ, just like it did for a lot of others. Everyday people, the people that are of this cloth, that are of this more positive mindset, it puts those people around people that need help.
Mm-hmm.
It surrounds you. It's this divine universe that we're living in, that says that I was waiting for him to ascend because at year 35 you were supposed to meet him,
Mm-hmm.
and he was supposed to help you, and then you were supposed to meet him, right? So it's ascending me so that I can start meeting these people and start rubbing off and planting seeds and doing everything. It's all this part of the plan.
That's awesome, mate. Well, I'm so excited for you. I can't wait to see what comes. It's
Yeah,
sounds like a
thank you.
great future.
I'll let you know what happens in the next 6 months from now.
Yeah, sure. I think you're doing a great job, man, and I wish you all the
And
best.
you don't go back. That's the thing,
No.
is any of these people you talk to, you do not transition back. There's no way to transition back. And it does suck a little bit. It gets a little hard because once your higher consciousness has released itself, you find it very hard to associate with
Mm-hmm.
anything
Yeah.
because you know of the reality that you live in. And so you have to work through that. It's hard. It means that things that used to make you happy might not make you happy anymore because you understand them on a different level.
Mm-hmm.
But people can't go back. That's the thing, is that all these people that have had these experiences and have woken up and have now found faith, of which they have never had before, you can't go back to not having faith. It doesn't exist. You used to lose faith because you said, I've seen things that would make me believe that God doesn't exist. Okay, but when you have these near death experiences, whenever you have these downloads of information, you know now that the things that you saw were there because God exists. They were
Mm-hmm.
there because of a reason. It was all evil and good are two sides of the same exact coin.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. And so that's what it is that people lose their faith because they don't see it. But whenever you find it within, you can never lose that again. Like that doesn't fade away. That knowledge of it never fades away. And that's what I think will allow your mind to graduate when you leave this realm. That memory that I'm eternal will just be a remembrance when you pop out of your body and you're looking down at it on the hospital bed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, oh, I already knew this.
Mm-hmm. Amazing, man. Love it. Well, like I said, I'm really excited to see the next steps of your journey, and well, it's silly to say I hope it goes great. I know it's going to go great for you, man.
Yeah, right. It has no other opportunity but to go great now. God wouldn't have it any other way.
Awesome.